Imagine you're living in Alexandria 30 BC. The streets you walk on today are 40 feet underwater. The tomb of the last pharaoh lies somewhere beneath your boat, and history made sure you'll never reach it. She ruled 21 years. She spoke 9 languages. She was the last to wear the double crown of Egypt. When she died, she was buried with a fortune that would dwarf the treasure of Tutankhamun himself. Yet 2,000 years later, not a single archaeologist can tell you where her body lies. Nothing remains. Cleopatra the Seventh, the richest, most documented queen of the entire ancient world, has vanished completely from history. Here's the thing, she didn't disappear by accident. Somebody 2,000 years ago made sure of it. What if her tomb is underwater right now and you've been swimming over it on vacation without knowing? Let's rewind. 30 BC. Cleopatra is the final ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty, Greek-speaking kings governing Egypt. For nearly 300 years they ruled from Alexandria. And Alexandria back then was not just a city, it was the brain of the ancient world. The Great Library, the lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders, marble palaces stretching along a turquoise harbor, 1 million people from every corner of the Mediterranean Sea. Then came Rome. Octavian, the future Augustus, crushed her fleet at the famous naval battle of Actium. Her lover Mark Antony, the legendary Roman general, fell on his sword. Cleopatra followed him days later. The ancient sources, Plutarch, Suetonius, Cassius Dio, they all agree on exactly what happened to her next. She was buried inside a grand tomb she built herself, somewhere in the royal quarter of Alexandria. And Mark Antony, by her own dying request, was laid beside her in that hidden royal tomb. That should be the end of the mystery. The Romans saw the tomb, they knew exactly where it stood. So why, 2,000 years later, do we have absolutely no idea where to start digging for it? Because the ancient writers all agree on one strange thing, and stay completely silent on another crucial fact. Read Plutarch carefully. He describes her death, the asp, the figs, the golden couch. He confirms the burial, but he never names the location. Not a street, not a landmark, not a single direction to follow. Suetonius does exactly the same. Cassius Dio repeats the story 2 centuries later, and still gives no address. 3 of the Roman world's most thorough historians, writing about its most famous queen, never say where she lies. Coincidence? Almost certainly not. Octavian had a powerful reason to bury her memory along with her actual body. He had just conquered Egypt. He needed to present himself in Rome as the savior of the Republic. The bold man who crushed a dangerous foreign seductress. Cleopatra had to become the villain of his story. Mark Antony, a Roman traitor, had to be erased. The Senate issued a formal damnatio memoriae against him. His statues were smashed. His name was chiseled off monuments. His birthday was officially declared a cursed day. Cleopatra got a quieter treatment. Octavian let the legend exist. The snake, the suicide, the doomed romance. It suited his story. But he made sure the physical evidence of her real existence quietly vanished forever. No coins of her reign survived in the capital. Her temples were stripped. Her family vault was sealed. Turns out that silence in Roman texts isn't laziness. It's policy. Octavian decided her grave would not survive him. And it didn't. But Alexandria itself hides a much darker secret beneath its turquoise harbor waters today. In the year 365, on a July morning, the eastern Mediterranean violently snapped near Crete. Minutes later, a massive tsunami slammed into Alexandria. Eyewitnesses described ships hurled onto rooftops of the city. Then, the ground itself began shifting. Over centuries, the entire royal quarter slowly slid into the sea. The palaces of the Ptolemies, the temples, the harbor district where Cleopatra had lived, ruled, and was buried. All slipped beneath the waves. Today, the water sits murky, shallow, dense with 2,000 years of silt. In the 1990s, a French underwater archaeologist, Franck Goddio, started carefully mapping the drowned ruins down there. What he found rewrote the textbooks. Sphinxes lying on their sides, granite columns half buried in dark mud. He uncovered foundations of a palace complex, matching dimensions described by ancient writers from her own century. He recovered statues of Ptolemaic kings, paving stones, and likely the remains of Antirodos, Cleopatra's private island. And somewhere in that flooded grid, scientists firmly believe, sits the still undiscovered tomb of Cleopatra herself today. But finding it is almost impossible. The water is 6 meters deep, yet visibility is barely a hand's length. Modern Alexandria, a sprawling city of 5 million people, sits directly on top of the ancient one. Cargo ships move through the harbor every hour. You cannot drain it. You cannot dig beneath it. You cannot even lower a proper grid without colliding with sewer outflows and busy shipping lanes overhead. The royal quarter sits right there. We see it. We cannot reach it. Yet one archaeologist swears Cleopatra isn't here. Her name is Kathleen Martinez, a lawyer from the Dominican Republic who fell for Cleopatra as a teenager. In 2004, she walked into Egypt's antiquities chief Zahi Hawass and asked permission to dig. He gave her 2 months. That was 20 years ago. And she is still digging today. Her target is Taposiris Magna, a ruined temple about 45 kilometers west of Alexandria on a dry ridge between the sea and the Salt Lake. Dedicated to Osiris, the Egyptian god of death and resurrection. Martinez believes Cleopatra, who identified with the goddess Isis, would choose exactly such a sacred site for her tomb, hidden from Roman eyes, protected by religion, far from the obvious Roman target of Alexandria itself. For 2 decades, her team has pulled extraordinary things from the sand around this lonely ridge. A bust that may be Cleopatra herself, coins minted in her name with her unmistakable hooked nose, stele mentioning Ptolemaic kings, headless statues. And then, in 2022, they found something extraordinary. A tunnel, carved through solid limestone, 2 meters tall, 1,300 meters long, engineered with almost unbelievable precision. Experts compared it to the famous ancient tunnel of Eupalinos on the Greek island of Samos. Part of that tunnel is now submerged under cold groundwater. Martinez believes it leads somewhere important, possibly to a sealed royal burial chamber, or possibly to absolutely nothing at all. After 20 years, she still has no sarcophagus, no inscription naming Cleopatra, no body, no proof at all. Critics say she's chasing a romantic theory. Supporters say she's one shovel away from rewriting ancient history. Then comes a twist nobody saw coming. Go back to the original Roman sources for one strange moment. Plutarch mentions something strange. After Cleopatra's suicide, Octavian himself visited her tomb and looked at her dead body. According to one account, he even touched her face. Then, much later, he ordered the tomb sealed forever, and the records of its location were destroyed. Why would a conqueror personally erase a dead enemy's address? Because Cleopatra was not just an enemy. She was a political nightmare that simply refused to die quietly. Even in death, she was a goddess to her people. A pilgrimage site would devastate Roman control of Egypt. So Augustus did what powerful men always do with inconvenient symbols. He rebranded the entire story for Rome. He became the divine emperor. She became the seductress who almost destroyed Rome and corrupted noble Mark Antony. Her name was scrapped from monuments she had built. Her young son with Caesar, Caesarion, was hunted down, killed within weeks of her death. Contrary to popular belief, Cleopatra's tomb is not lost. It was hidden, deliberately, by the most efficient propaganda machine in history, and the modern world made finding her even harder. Alexandria today is a layered nightmare for archaeologists. The Romans built right on top of the Ptolemies. The Byzantines built on top of the Romans. The Arabs built on top of the Byzantines and Ottomans. Then a 21st century metropolis poured concrete over all of it. 5 million people, 12-story apartment blocks everywhere. Highways, sewer systems, cell towers crowd the surface. If her tomb sits 20 meters below downtown Alexandria today, no government on earth is going to demolish an entire neighborhood just to look for one buried queen. Permits are another wall. Egypt's antiquities laws are the world's strictest. Every excavation needs years of approval. Wars and political unrest pause digs for months. Funding evaporates. Foreign teams are sometimes told to leave. Then there's the soil. The Nile Delta is wet, salty, unstable. Ground-penetrating radar bounces uselessly off saturated sand. Salt corrodes equipment. Groundwater floods trenches faster than pumps drain. Whatever survives fights 2,000 years of chemistry. Earthquakes destroyed what remained. The fault that sank the royal quarter has shaken the region dozens of times since. Walls collapsed, chambers flooded, looters did the rest. For 19 centuries, anyone suspecting treasure beneath Alexandria dug at night. Here's the cruelest part. We have no DNA reference for Cleopatra. Her father Ptolemy has no confirmed tomb either. Her mother is unknown, her sister Arsinoe was murdered in Ephesus, and the skeleton once thought hers proved inconclusive. Even if archaeologists found a royal female body tomorrow, they couldn't prove it was Cleopatra through genetics alone. They'd need inscriptions, jewelry, context, a tomb screaming her name. So is the search hopeless or finally close? Closer than it has ever been, and here is why. 3 plausible locations remain on the table today. The first, Taposiris Magna, where Kathleen Martinez keeps digging through limestone tunnels searching for Cleopatra's hidden grave. The second is the sunken royal quarter, where Godio's underwater teams map new structures every single season. The third, a long shot, a hidden desert site along the Mediterranean, perhaps a lost temple of Isis. Each location is now within reach of technology that simply did not exist a single generation ago. Studies show muon tomography found a hidden chamber inside the Great Pyramid in 2017, piercing solid rock. If a sealed chamber hides under Taposiris, muons will find it. AI now scans satellite imagery for anomalies, subtle vegetation patterns, heat signatures, faint geometric outlines beneath the desert sand no human eye would ever catch. Underwater, autonomous drones are finally mapping the harbor floor in centimeter detail across Alexandria's lost royal quarter. Within a decade, scientists believe one of these sites will give up its secret. Math is on our side. But here's the twist. Would actually finding Cleopatra's tomb be a good thing? Think about that carefully. Her tomb, if it survives intact, would be the last untouched royal Egyptian burial ever discovered by archaeologists. Tutankhamun was a minor pharaoh. His tomb produced 5,000 objects, including history's most famous solid gold mask. Cleopatra ruled an empire 10 times wealthier. The contents of her grave could fill an entire museum. More than gold, her tomb would carry information, inscriptions in 3 languages, personal letters, the names of her children, even the exact day she died. Whether the snake was real or she swallowed poison from a hollow pin. Her burial would rewrite Ptolemaic history, the final chapter of pharaonic Egypt, the moment Egypt surrendered to Rome. Your generation may be the one that watches this happen, live, the way the world watched Tutankhamun's tomb. A century ago, they opened that boy king. Imagine the day someone lifts the lid on Cleopatra herself. And yet, there is a quieter possibility. that her absence is itself the most honest monument she has. Octavian wanted her erased. For 2,000 years he has won, every empty trench continuing his victory. Find her, and you reverse it. Leave her alone, and history admits that propaganda outlived a queen. Lost queens shape how we remember power. The ones we cannot find become bigger than the ones we can. Nefertiti, Boudica, Cleopatra. Their missing graves keep them alive in a way gold sarcophagi never quite could. Because as long as the tomb is out there, the story stays unfinished. The mystery keeps her breathing. One question still haunts archaeologists tonight. If Augustus took her body, she may not be in Egypt at all. She may lie in Rome, or at the bottom of the Adriatic, or in soil no one remembers naming. The most famous queen in history might be buried under a parking lot somewhere in modern Italy tonight. We may never know. And maybe that uncertainty is the most honest answer history can ever give us about Cleopatra. Want more? Watch the next mystery, the lost tomb of Genghis Khan, hidden by an entire rerouted river. The link is on screen. And tell me in the comments, where do you actually think Cleopatra is? Taposiris Magna under Alexandria's sunken harbor? Or somewhere nobody has even thought to look yet? I read every answer. Subscribe if you want more quiet, careful breakdowns of the world's deepest historical mysteries. Dozens of them are still waiting. Some graves were never meant to be found, and the longer they stay buried,